Every American eats around 220 pounds, or a greater amount of, meat each and every year. It's a tasty meat that we can't have frequently enough, yet an inadequately cooked steak is not difficult to miss. With such a cherished dish, it means a lot to know how to get your supper visitors the ideal steak when they approach your home. In the event that your steaks never turn out the manner in which you need, this moment's a decent opportunity to sort out what's turning out badly. Recorded down underneath are tips and deceives to assist you with figuring out how to cook the ideal steak. Furthermore, a recipe that is perfect for fledglings and experts the same. Picking the right steak. Indeed, even the best steak recipe won't help on the off chance that the actual steak isn't the right one to get everything done. The primary thing to search for in a steak is its grade level. The higher the grade, the better the steak, yet cooking incredible steaks on a tight spending plan is as yet conceivable. In the US, we have 3 sorts of grades. Select, the most minimal grade. These steaks are functional, yet the marbling and quality are not all that great, making it harder and less delightful. Decision, the mid-range grade. Decision grades have great marbling and flavor, and are much of the time the most elevated grade that anyone could hope to find in numerous stores. Prime, the most noteworthy grade. These are the top quality steaks that we as a whole long for, however a great deal of general stores don't convey these delights. Most frequently, you'll have to go to a butcher for this grade. No matter what its USDA grade, consistently pick a steak that is steadfast with an even dispersion of marbling. The variety should be a radiant pink tone, and keep away from anything that is dim red. Figuring out steak temperatures. We as a whole have various thoughts with respect to what's the ideal steak, yet knowing how to cook every temperature is a tremendous resource. At the point when a visitor requests a particular temperature, you need to serve them a steak they love. While realizing the finger test is great for experts, a moment thermometer is far and away superior for precise peruses without fail. Utilize the accompanying rundown to assist with getting the ideal doneness for all inclinations. Interesting, 125 degrees. Seared to perfection, 135 degrees. Medium, 145 degrees. Medium? Well, 150 degrees. All around good, 160 degrees. Permit time for resting. It nearly appears to be strange to leave a hot steak covered to rest for any measure of time. The issue with skirting this step is that each of the normal squeezes that make for a delightful steak are at the edges of the meat. By permitting it to rest, you're assisting with reallocating those juices all through the remainder of the meat. This gives you the best flavor and surface each and every time. Continuously give your steak essentially a couple of moments of resting time before you make a plunge with top-notch cutlery, for example, this cutting-edge blade set. It's hard to stand by, yet it's certainly worth the work. Cook your seasonings. It's not difficult to get carried away with flavors. More flavoring appears to be something to be thankful for, from the start, since it gives the steak more flavor. For a far better outcome, best to go with straightforward flavors permit the steak to justify itself. You're getting some margin to cook an excellent steak flawlessly, why not have the kind of the meat? Be the star of the dinner? Rubs and marinades are perfect for specific dishes, however more often than not, a straightforward burnt steak is flawlessness, which is what's really going on with our recipe. The best recipe for simple pan-seared steak. There are many ways of cooking a steak that all outcome in a delightful feast. Before you plunge into those different steak recipes, it's smart to dominate the least difficult rendition. Coming up next is the best steak recipe to provide you with a great deal of involvement cooking steak while permitting you to explore on the off chance that you need. Regardless of whether you never cook a steak indifferently, you'll constantly have this technique in your cooking toolkit. It'll intrigue you, and your visitors, for the vast majority flavorful years. Fixings. Room temperature steak, 1 to 1.5 inch thick of your grade decision. 2 teaspoons salt. 3 tablespoons garlic spread. Project iron skillet. Cooking process. Ensure your steaks are at room temperature so the external cooks when it contacts the hot dish, making a decent singe. Take them out basically a half hour prior to cooking. Begin warming your skillet. A cast iron skillet requires as long as 10 minutes to warm up to the right temperature. When it begins to smoke somewhat, it's prepared. Wipe the steaks off with some paper towels to dispose of overabundant dampness, then, at that point, season with salt, covering the two sides with a liberal layer. Place the steaks into the hot container, and leave them there for something like 1 moment or until a decent outside layer structures. To this end, there's no oil in this recipe, as it's excessive and can block a legitimate burn. When the outside layer is there, you're ready to flip the steak to the opposite side without it staying. Cook the opposite side for 1 moment too. Keep flipping between the different sides for an additional 4 minutes. Include the garlic spread, use steak margarine or normal margarine on the off chance that you like, and slant your skillet aside to permit the liquefied spread to gather. Utilize a spoon to spread the rich goodness over the steaks as it cooks, keeping the meat delicate, succulent, and tasty. Flip and rehash consistently. Keep cooking for an additional 6 minutes, when you'll test for the doneness of the steak. When it arrives at your favored temperature, take the steaks out, and permit them to rest for a fraction of the time they cook. Appreciate with your #1 sides in general and sauces. Cooking the perfect steak only takes a little practice. Attempting to figure out how to cook the ideal steak appears to be an overwhelming errand from the get-go. When you attempt it a couple of times, it becomes far more straightforward and you won't ever stress over demolishing a costly piece of meat once more.